my god!
What is happening?
What's going on, man? Back to the movies. Let's intro it like you usually do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're on the this week since we're.
I have to do this week. Okay, this week on Back to the Movies, we're talking Into the Wild, possibly the greatest movie ever made.
Oh, absolutely.
You love that one, right?
Absolutely agree. What's up, everybody?
Woo!
Welcome to another episode of Back to the Movies, the silver screen time machine where we travel back to a specific year of cinema history and explore what made it special. This season, we're going back to the year 2007. I'm your host, Ben, and with me, as always, in person, is my co-host, Nat McGee. Nat, how's it going?
It's going well. We're having a wonderful little weekend together in the country, just the two of us.
Yeah.
How does it feel? We're like kind of doing like an Into the Wild, you and I.
Together.
Maybe starting a relationship together.
Except in a house with amenities.
Right. With
We're
running
gonna go
water.
play mini golf later.
We had cheesesteak last night. Yes, both of our respective fiancés have left us, and now we are in a relationship together, and we are in the country together. Yes. No, they're out of town. Ben came down. He drove a very long time, 6 hours from Vermont to Pennsylvania, and we're doing this. We're doing a live episode, and we decided it would be cool to live stream it in video for the first time ever, as well as record it for the podcast feed.
So people listening on the podcast feed, please forgive us, our stutters and ums and our
We're not going to edit it at all. This
clowning to the camera over there.
This is real life, just like Into the Wild.
You're getting it raw.
Yeah. So, Ben, you have the show notes, the newts. I want you to kind of lead the episode because usually I have my computer. This time I'm going off the journal. So, if you're new to Back to the Movies, if you're a longtime fan, if you're just tuning in to the live stream, we're an up-and-coming movie podcast. We are really trying to grow the brand. So please, if you can, give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love for you to hype us up and just give us
spread the word.
Give us the respect that we deserve.
Jesus.
No.
You sound like the hero, the protagonist of
Into the Wild. And, follow us on social media. You're obviously following us on @BttM Pod on Instagram. If you're watching this right now, I don't actually think we have any viewers, which is fine. We're going to pretend like we're streaming to an audience of thousands.
Great.
And yeah, give us a follow on the old social media on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and most importantly, though, the 5-star review. It would really help us out. So with that, Ben, what have you been watching this week?
I haven't got around to watching much, except there was this one movie.
One movie?
I got here last night.
Yeah.
And we were going to sit down and watch Into the Wild after we got back from a late dinner in preparation for
cheesesteaks. We were really full.
Cheesesteaks. We got home at we got back to the house at 9:30.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, now we're going to sit down and watch this 2.5-hour movie about Emile Hirsch slowly dying in a bus.
Right.
And we decided that was a bad idea.
It was like I was on the iTunes rental and like the image of the movie popped up and we both looked at each other and we were just like, no. Reminded me a lot of my story from last week, which the podcast episode hasn't aired yet, but I told the story about how Davide and I noped out of a Tribeca screening because we thought we were going to die of exposure. Kind of like Christopher McCandless does at the end of Into the Wild.
It's all connected. But we didn't just abandon cinema last night.
We did not. No, we did not abandon
Instead
cinema.
of watching Into the Wild, we put on the next most obvious choice, James Cameron's Aliens.
Yes, we did.
And we got this close to just doing this episode about aliens instead.
We were thinking about posting it as Into the Wild and then just saying, fuck Into the Wild. We hate Into the Wild. We're talking about aliens now. But we decided to stick to our guns for the good of the show because people are expecting the 2007 content.
Yes.
But, if you guys think it would have been funnier for us to just talk about aliens randomly, maybe we'll do that sometime. So yeah, Aliens was good. I don't like it as much as Alien, I've decided. Because I had seen it once a long time ago out of obligation. It was on the IMDb Top 250, and I watched it because I had to. And it's good. It's good. It's not as good as Alien, sadly. So yeah, I enjoy it. What do you think of Aliens?
It rules.
I love the story you told me. You should tell it to our listeners and viewers.
There's just an amazing urban legend about how James Cameron pitched the movie Aliens. He goes into the Fox offices, he writes Alien on the board. The executives are all like, oh.
I like to imagine he's doing this completely silently. Like, he doesn't even say hello.
He just does it. He just walks and writes it. So he writes Alien on the board, and then he adds an S, and then he makes the S into a $.
And he just looks at them, and they're like, yes.
They're like, green light.
Green light. Green light.
Yeah.
I think that's the greatest story of all time.
And, Aliens, I agree with you. I think Aliens a better film, but Aliens also rules, and I was very happy to rewatch it.
It had a lot of crowd-pleasing moments. It just didn't build as well for me. There's a lot of fun stuff, for sure. I was just craving more violence than it even had. There's a lot of machine gun shooting, but there's not a lot of humans getting shot or eaten.
At the end of the movie, when the Queen rips Bishop in half...
That was the good one.
And throws him across the docking bay, Nat says, I wish they had done that to the human characters.
Because he's an android and he's got the white blood. So yeah, that was really fun. I also wanted to show off to our live stream audience the gift that you got me. These beautiful Naturian collection versions of my favorite movies from 1990. Ben custom made these things, and they're really cool. I'll post them on the Instagram for the listeners, but this is the most thoughtful gift that I've ever gotten, or most creative, I don't know. So thank you very much,
You
Ben.
hear that, Davide? I'm coming for you.
Oh yeah, Jesse says love the pod. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you so much. So, Ben, what are we doing here in Pennsylvania today? In the wilderness, in this beautiful wooden paneled room. Very apt.
When we were making our 2007 schedule,
Yes.
looking at the films that were released,
Yes, I sense that some blame is about to be put on
a movie
certain someone.
came up in conversation.
Yes.
Sean Penn's Into the Wild. And I said, we don't have to cover that. And Nat said, we absolutely have to cover that. So Nat, tell me why we had to watch this movie.
Honestly, I don't know now. This was another movie that I had access to as a screener. And when it was 2007, when I was 17, I remember it being kind of a zeitgeisty movie for a lot of people. It's kind of an emo movie. People kind of think it's really deep, and I don't know. I just thought that we kind of had to talk about it because it's one of the most annoying movies ever made, and it's pretty important that we cover something like this.
It has a high schooler's profundity.
Yes.
That's what it has.
And even in high school, I thought it was annoying. Like, I liked to shit on it when I was in high school. It was quite annoying to me at the time, and I loved making fun of Christopher McCandless. May God rest his peace.
He was a real person who died.
Yes, he's a real person who died. And yeah, I don't know. I just was like attached to this movie for some weird reason. Like, I just enjoyed shitting on it, but I also obviously enjoyed watching it to some degree as well.
It certainly had a lot of appreciation at the time. Like, we'll talk about at the end of the episode. It got nominated for Oscars, got a lot of buzz, did well enough financially. I remember seeing it in 2007 and finding it kind of risible. The same way I found, like, what was the Ben Stiller movie? Secret Life of Walter Mitty. All these movies that want to be about the profound realization that human beings need to return to nature, to a simpler way of living. I love the wilderness.
You do.
I live up in Vermont,
Yes.
in the middle of the woods on top of a mountain. I love being there. I have great respect for nature and for the healing power of nature.
Yeah. You're an outdoorsman of sorts. We once hiked deeply into the Grand Canyon.
We hiked all the way across, down and across, and then back and out.
And you were probably complaining the least. You were totally yeah, we gotta do this shit. Let's go. So I think of you as definitely an outdoors type.
I tend to be very suspicious, though, of people who believe that is the superior way of living or the only way of living.
Right.
Everyone needs to find their own path, and if that works for me, that's great. But I'm not going to go there and tell 80-year-old Hal Holbrook that he needs to go climb a mountain.
That was elder abuse. The scene when he makes him climb the goddamn mountain out of respect to, the life? I don't know. He just forces an old man, a geriatric old man, to climb a mountain in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
So, what did you think of Into the Wild?
Rewatching it now, 13 years or so after the first time I've watched it, I found it utterly detestable.
We just watched the entire thing.
We literally just
just
finished
popped
it.
off the TV. And, Ben, you looked pretty miserable the whole time.
I had a headache that the movie only made worse. It's funny. There's a lot of actually great stuff about the movie. I think there's a couple of really good performances. I think the cinematography is beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful landscape photography that captures the American wilderness so well, which is, again, like the appeal of something like Nomadland.
Yes.
Which you were comparing
There's a
it
lot
to.
of comparisons to Nomadland.
And I appreciate all those things about it, except they chose to center it around one of the most unlikable characters in cinema history.
Oh my god.
And not redeem that character, not question that character, but drink the Kool-Aid that character was mixing in a way that
I want to talk
irritating.
about this.
Okay.
Because maybe this is a conversation for later, but I think the central question of this movie is does it believe in his way of life, or is it a cautionary tale?
So the way I would say it is, it believes in the necessity of his journey.
Okay.
I think it sides more with the revelation he comes to at the end that there is love and happiness and joy to be found in other people.
Right.
But it also believes that the exploration that he went through to reach that conclusion on his own was essential to his growth as a person. It sees him as a very romantic figure.
Sees him
not as a fool, not as an idiot.
As a martyr of sorts to the outdoors.
This isn't Fitzcarraldo. This isn't like Aguirre, the Wrath of God.
Where it's like, he fucked up. He's terrible. He's an idiot. I wanted to backtrack for a second. You said you had a headache during the movie. Do you think that was because of the coffee drink that you created for yourself? Should we talk about that?
Which was really bad, actually.
So Ben, he wanted some sweet iced coffee. They didn't have any at Dunkin' Donuts. Sad. And so we crafted our very own coffee. What do you want to call that?
It was a homemade frappuccino.
Well, we can like honor it for Into the Wild or something. Like we could call it like the McCandless Macchiato or something.
Perfect.
But yeah, it was we have these old Jesse, we used one of your little coffee things. We used one of Jesse's pre-packaged like 80 cal like delicious macchiato mochas
coffee.
Yeah, that you get out of a grocery store, and then we added ice and whipping cream because we didn't have any milk. I think that gave you a headache.
Yeah, I might have. I'll tell you what it was. At first it tastes pretty good, but then the sweetener in that coffee really started to get to me. It wasn't sugar.
It was the sweetener.
Wow, what great story this is. This is great podcasting.
No, it's kind of like you were Christopher McCandless and you poisoned yourself with the wrong macchiato.
An easy mistake to make. I would absolutely have done the same thing he did in Alaska, except I just wouldn't have gone.
You're like in a Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, like looking at the calorie intake. No, it's the wrong sugar.
All right, let's get into the episode. I do want to do a little bit of book report corner. Spoiler alert, listeners. Having driven 6 hours yesterday and just watched the movie a few hours ago, I didn't have time to do my normal amount of research and context.
You did not need to for this one.
I just like to be prepared.
I know, it's fine.
There are some important things that we need to establish going into it. First is that this is based off the life of a real person.
Yes. That
was made famous in a 1996 book written by John Krakauer.
Into the Wild. Have you read that book?
I have not. My brother was a big fan.
Your brother was? I've read that book, and it's a good book. And it's not as annoying as the Sean Penn movie.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sort of compares him to several other similar figures throughout history, right?
Yes.
It's more about the wanderlust generally.
Yeah, I mean, it tracks with his story specifically, but it does delve into some other people, and like it kind of explores like why people want to do this. And Krakauer also has experience going off and doing his own survival stuff, so it's a little bit more personal. It's not as just like, look at this cool guy who like didn't play by the rules.
Sure.
It's definitely.
Well, speaking of cool guys who didn't play by the rules.
Oh my God! Here we go.
The book falls in the hands of Sean Penn, who had directed
Sean Penn
a fair number of movies. Was looking for a new project, found this, decided this is what he wanted to do.
Yes.
And I think he really overshadows this film. His presence is really felt. Maybe it's just that his persona in 2007 was so inescapable and so mildly irritating.
Right.
But I feel it in every minute of this movie.
It is pretty irritating. It's like this, he's like trying to be this like punk poet, rocker, leather, acoustic guitar, and it just shows right through that like he wants to capture this. It's like a very like outdoorsy magazine vibe, but like also like I get down and like drink light beers at the bar at night with the working class guys. Sean Penn, what is he, like a young child actor or like young actor, LA raised, clearly part of the generation of like the Brat Pack dudes, clearly an LA boy.
And, wildly successful actor.
Yes.
Owns, I would assume, like $1 million house, is friends with Bono.
Definitely Malibu mansion status. What I'm trying to say is that he is a liar and a hypocrite. I don't know.
Well, I think the way I would describe the directorial style of this movie is like the direction equivalent of method acting. Which can produce really strong results, but everything you learn about it just annoys you when you hear it.
Kind of,
like
yes.
It enables bad behavior and self-aggrandizement and hypocrisy.
I just picture Sean Penn like right there with Emile Hirsch on the roof of that bus, just being like,
Totally.
Yeah, we're doing it. We're out here, man.
You got this. You pull a bunch of quotes from him there, and I think I don't know if we're gonna read all.
Let's
of
read
them.
some of the quotes that I pulled.
But
I
there
want
was-
you to do your Sean Penn impression.
I don't have a Sean. Who's got a Sean?
Well, just
Penn
do the you know,
the cheesy version of what I've experienced, like many of us, is not being understood.
Here, take a drag of your cigarette.
And I felt that part of me was not being understood, that I shared with everybody, was in the wanderlust of this film. It was a part of me. You know, it was part of you. It's part of everybody. I felt I really had something that was my own personal vision, but also something that everybody owned.
Mm.
I don't mind saying about Emile Hirsch that he's phenomenal. During an 8-month shooting schedule, he climbed mountains, floated naked in 35-degree river water, and stood inches from an 8-foot, 6-inch grizzly bear. No stunt doubles were used, no trailers were provided, no hot lunches were served.
I think for that you gotta.
That is the bullshit I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I think for that last part you have to say it like it's a proud accomplishment.
Yeah.
And you should be angry at the rest of the world. Like, no hot lunches were served. No fucking stunts required. Like, look at me. Look at us. Look at what we did, people.
We didn't pay guild rates.
No. And then it's like, Mr. Penn, we have to wrap this up. You have a reservation at La Terraria at 8:30. So yes, he's a hack fraud, and we hate him.
No, I don't want to go as far as that. I think Sean Penn is a very talented actor. I think he's a pretty good director. I think this film is reasonably well directed, although it's clear that Sean Penn's understanding of who this character is and what makes him special is very different than, say, my understanding.
Right.
But he just has this way about him that can get under your skin.
Yeah, it's annoying. And, you know, this is speaking as, like, two movie-watching couch potatoes who, like, haven't gone and, like, married Madonna and then married Robin Wright and then dated Charlize Theron and, like, lived this rock star filmmaker life, man. Like, Sean Penn would slap us both across the face. And he's well within his rights to do that to us. But we're well within our rights to call him kind of annoying.
Kind of annoying.
And his movie they made, kind of annoying.
Kind of a little bit full of himself.
A little bit full of himself.
Thinks he's got the answers.
Yeah.
When it's very clear he doesn't.
Yeah. So, should we... I mean, I'm assuming that we've tried to do some quick research on this movie. It seems like everything kind of went off without a hitch in terms of, like, getting the rights to it. I don't know who wrote it or
I
anything
didn't see
like that.
any interesting stories about the
Into the
adaptation
Wilds.
process in particular. The shooting of it was pretty unorthodox. You know, again, sort of speaking of that method style.
Yeah.
There's a lot of inexperienced actors in the piece.
Okay.
Other than, you know, the main major stars, you know, big focus on drawing out performances from actors, which in some cases I think worked. In some cases maybe went too far.
Yeah. Who isn't an actor in this movie? Is it the
Basically
old
everyone
guy?
you meet
Yeah.
on the road who's got like one line isn't an actor.
Okay.
But there's one big one that we're going to get to that
Okay.
I want to talk about when we get there, because I actually think he's really good.
Gotcha. For those of us just joining in the live stream, we're talking Into the Wild 2007, Sean Penn's excellent film about... Look at that look he just gave me.
Let's get into the plot of the movie.
Okay.
So we open in Alaska as our main character, Chris, Alex, you know, you get a couple names.
Christopher Alex Supertramp McCandless.
That guy.
He's got a lot of names.
He's about to set off on the Stampede Trail on his fateful journey that will lead to his death. He gets some boots from a stranger and is kind of ungrateful about it, which I just feel like sums up his character so well. Right from the very beginning, you get a great sense of who
Well,
this guy
also,
is.
before this happens, I was going to say that the movie opens with his parents in bed.
Oh, true.
It's like that you're going to a movie to see Into the Wild, and they start the movie with the parents
Marcia
waking up.
Gay Harden and William Hurt.
Yeah, they're waking up in bed, she's crying, and I'm like, what a way to start the movie. Like, I'm shutting it off if I'm just coming across it starting on HBO or whatever. Like, I think I would much prefer to start this movie in the wild, because we went into the wild. But I guess it's more important to show that his parents have trauma over him leaving. I don't know.
I suppose. It's an interesting choice to start it that way, and I had basically already forgotten, having just finished the movie, that's how it started.
Literally right before this.
Because the thing that resonates, the thing that sticks with you is the wilderness, which
Yes.
almost immediately we get into. We get these beautiful crane shots of just the empty expanse of Alaska.
And
it's
first, you're seeing his written journal, and then it goes into the opening credits.
I hate those I hate that, though.
Yeah, he's got the journals. It's like, I'm going to Alaska, and it's superimposed over the image.
We've got this beautiful shot of the Alaskan wilderness, and then in yellow, like Comic Sans font, we see this journal being written across it. I'm like, get that the fuck out of here.
And then it's the opening credits. They have to show everyone's name. They're not doing the thing where they don't even do opening credits. I think this movie would have been better served. We don't need to see Emile Hirsch's name. This isn't some beautiful opening credit sequence. It's just plastered over the opening shots. So it took like 20 minutes for the whole credits to go
This
through.
whole movie is so slow.
It's really, really slow. Just lots of shots of nothing happening.
You paused to check the time once.
A couple times.
And it felt like we had been watching for hours, and we weren't even halfway through the movie.
Yeah, it's so slow. But yeah, he arrives he finds the bus that he's gonna live in, and he makes camp. He's chilling out in Alaska. Yeah. He howls.
We get our first of many montages.
So many montages in this movie. It's ridiculous. But I think it's really important that he howls, because he's in the wild.
He's wild.
And I will point out, Frances McDormand also howled during her Oscar acceptance speech for Nomadland. I think those two movies are like very, very interconnected.
Now, have you ever been inclined to howl?
Maybe to test out like a canyon or something. Also, Junie howls. Maybe we could get her on this podcast later and try to get her to howl live.
Great.
If you howl, it can be kind of tough, and she does get a little like distressed, but she does howl. This is my dog, by the way. This is not a human being. But she will howl, especially if she hears a siren. So then I actually have been howling a lot in recent times because I get Junie to howl.
I gotcha.
How about you?
Great.
Are you a howler?
No, I've never felt the inclination to howl.
Okay. Well, you're just not in touch with the wilderness.
I guess so.
You know?
All right, let's talk about Emile Hirsch for a minute here.
Yes.
About his performance. He was pretty hot when this movie came out. He, was largely working in independent movies, but he was coming off things like Lords of Dogtown and Alpha Dog, both of which made a big splash, both of which like heralded him as an exciting young actor.
Yes.
Kind of in the vein of someone like Sean Penn.
Yeah, kind of. He didn't have like any like super standout performances. He's all part of like a bigger movie than himself. Like, he wasn't like a huge like star, but he was a hot guy.
And I don't think he really crossed over into Hollywood as well as some of those methody independent actors have. His big first attempt was Speed Racer, the Wachowski film, which was a commercial disaster.
Yeah, I never saw it. Have you seen it?
I have. I think it's pretty good.
Okay.
I think it's underrated.
Okay. I don't know. I feel like Emile never really had his... This is his biggest like starring role, I think.
So how is he?
He's okay in this one. He's watchable, but the character is really annoying.
I know, I can't separate my feelings between the two.
But I think his acting is good. He's not a bad actor. He's just really insufferable as a character.
Does an actor have a responsibility to find the parts of the character that make them resonate with an audience? I'm not saying it's just his responsibility, but is there a version of this movie where Hirsch is tapping into something that Penn and the screenplay are not, that makes us care more about Chris and his journey?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think the movie's style is so overbearingly, it's like always going to crush him no matter how likable he is. And especially the things that he has to say and do.
The scenarios,
and the scenarios that he puts himself in, like, you can't help but be like, this guy is a real piece of work. Yeah. But in terms of just, like, not being annoying as a main character...
It's a big, showy performance, and he does all that stuff convincingly.
Yeah, it's a big, showy performance, and he does do all that stuff convincingly. So I can't fault Emile.
Let me ask you, who did Isolation better?
Will
or Smith?
Yeah, because we just watched I Am Legend, which is also about a guy all alone. I think I'm going to give it to Will Smith. I'd rather watch Will Smith be alone than Emile Hirsch, I gotta say. I think Will did a good job, and he's got way more to do. Yeah. He's got way more fun scenarios.
He's got the dog.
So, but it's like I'd rather spend 2 hours watching Will than Emile.
I was only like mildly puzzled about who Robert Neville was. I didn't actively
dislike him. Yeah, exactly.
Detest him,
yeah.
Fun fact about this bus, where we start. You were actually the one who told me this.
Yeah, it's a bus in the middle of the wilderness. It's been abandoned there for some reason.
It's from like a mining company that used to work out there and then left it. After this film, it had to get moved. In like 2020, it had to get moved because tourists would try and hike out to it and endanger themselves.
Wow. So they clearly didn't learn anything from the movie they watched because, as we know, he dies at the end from going out there.
And realizes that the pursuit of this was not worth the cost.
But that is an amazing selfie. If you can...
That's going to look so good on the gram.
On the grid, if you have a 3 slider with you, then Emile, then the same picture recreated with Christopher, because they recreate... There's a famous picture that they found in his dead body's camera roll of Christopher McCandless, the real guy, sitting in front. And they do a really good job in this movie of actually recreating that exact framing and that shot.
And the clothes.
So if you could do all 3 on a grid post... You're going to get so many likes.
Jesus.
Hashtag outdoor life. Hashtag put down the phone. Hashtag living.
Hashtag into the wild.
Hashtag into the wild. Exactly. You can make an influencer career out of that.
So after we do some of our scene setting about the present of Chris's story, him in Alaska, we flash back to find out how he got there. It starts at his graduation from Emory College.
Yes. 1990. Our previous season was 1990, and this is our first ever movie taking place in 1990. In retrospect, kind of cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was fun.
The threads, they all connect.
I think that they did an actually really great job of the 90s setting. I think they do like the production design was really good. It's a little bit easier because most of the locations are like out in the wilderness.
Sure.
But like even when they're in that like yuppie kind of restaurant, I think they kind of nailed it. I think the production designers did a wonderful job there.
We meet his parents, played by Marcia Gay Harden and William Hurt, like we already said.
Yes.
I love William Hurt.
Yeah.
I think he's great in this movie. He's got like 2 scenes, and I think he does exactly what he needs to do.
He's the abusive father.
Yeah, not even like strictly abusive. He does get physically violent with his wife, but we don't see him abusing the kids.
Yeah, but he's a real piece of work.
Yeah.
He super gruff, super dad, super
in these
expects a lot of Emile.
2 scenes at the graduation and then at the restaurant, he's doing a lot of stuff with just his looks, his glances, his eyes.
Right.
And this is like the one part of the movie where I'm like sort of sympathetic towards Chris, and it's mostly because of what William Hurt is doing.
He's been through trauma. It's, his daddy didn't treat him right, so now he's gonna burn his Social Security card.
His parents
abandon everything.
Thought about getting a divorce.
They did. They threatened them with divorce. Should we talk about it now? The narration from the sister.
From the sister.
So the whole movie, there's this really bad narration from the sister. She's kind of just spelling everything out. She's spelling out his psychology, spelling out why she thinks he did what he did, because he did. He abandoned his entire life. He went off the grid, literally.
And venerating and justifying his choices.
I think it's a better movie without any of the narration.
I'm inclined to agree, because then you come to your own conclusions about whether or not this was the right thing to do, why he did it, and he becomes a more interesting and complex character, not one who's so easy to dismiss as, like a product of privilege.
She's just saying stuff like, he did it because our father would do these terrible things to us, and he would always think about why he needed to go away. And you're just like, enough of this. We don't need this. This is a movie. You don't need this. And it's not like good narration, like something... I mean, we're always going to talk about Goodfellas, because we have to. We're 2 guys. That adds something to it. It adds character to a movie, and it kind of fills in some of the cracks because of the way that narrative is shaped, and this movie just doesn't need it.
The other key thing that does, that I think is really important for most voiceover narration, is it contrasts what we see on the screen.
Right.
He's telling us this romantic story about being in the mob, but everything we're seeing is violent and unpleasant.
Exactly.
And so that contrast tells us a lot about the narrator's character, and it tells us a lot about the world and the attitude of the movie.
I'd say it's either that or it's helping sell what we're already seeing, and he's kind of like a salesman in a way.
Sure.
Because there's certain parts where the camera is glamorizing the lifestyle, and his voiceover is just helping it. But it's all part of the mood of the scene. It's not just contextualizing his psychology. In
this movie, the sister is barely a character.
No, she's not.
So this doesn't tell us anything about her.
Yeah.
And all it does is to serve to reinforce the romanticism of the camera in the way that it films Chris's journey. So it just underlines everything that's already there and makes it so irritating.
Yeah.
Irritating is the word for this movie.
It is one of the most irritating movies ever. We were playing a game towards the end, or I was playing a game. Ben was pretty serious, actually, about watching the entire movie. I left a couple times to, like, set up this live stream, and, like, I was watching my Instagram feed a little bit. Ben sat there and tortured himself with the entirety of the film.
I had the headache coming on. I didn't even get up to get Advil.
You're such a masochist. What is wrong with you? You had a glass of water or something. I was playing a game where I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna put the display on, and if it's not less than 25 minutes left, I'm gonna kill myself. Not actually, don't worry. But it was painful after a while.
You did it 3 or 4 times towards the end of the movie. You're like, 15 minutes.
It's gotta be less than 15 minutes.
It'd be like 13
over.
minutes and 59 seconds.
Yeah. Oh, woo! Just made it out. Okay, let's move on. Emile, we start going back and forth between Alaska in the present and his story leading up to Alaska.
He abandons the path set out for him, decides to go on a road trip at first.
Yeah.
His sister describes his rebellion as having characteristic immoderation, which I think is just a great
Such
term
a way with words.
to describe this guy's entitlement. Like, everything that sucks about this character, that he doesn't moderate. He doesn't think about the effect of his actions on other people. He's just like, I'm gonna do it because I want to do it, and that's the way it's gonna be.
It's gotta be. It does reek of entitlement, because you learn that he's like an upper middle class kid, you know.
Yeah, his dad was a scientist. They have millions. The family has millions. We learn.
So yeah, he's gonna do it the way he wants, and he's gonna go off, and I guess he starts off by ditching his car.
He gets caught in a flash flood.
Yeah.
After passing signs that warned about flash floods. Great foreshadowing for the way that this guy ignores signs, warnings, aid, people who just want to help him live a happy and fulfilling life. And he's like, fuck you, I know better.
Yeah, and it's not that he's suicidal, because he expresses deep remorse when he ultimately realizes that he is going to die. He's not happy about the fact that he's going to die. He's not sitting out in the woods being like, this is what I needed. This is how it ended. Like, maybe subconsciously he wants to die, because he certainly puts himself in a lot of dangerous situations, but it seems more that he just kind of thinks he's invincible.
But is this flash flood a wake-up call for him? No, it's license to go even further.
Yeah, it's like Boris in GoldenEye. I'm invincible! And then he gets nitrogen. So
we also start getting a couple of these one-line performances or one-scene performances, and I actually think a lot of them are really bad.
Yeah, they're not great.
The fully fleshed out supporting characters are all pretty good, but the ones where it's clearly just some guy that Sean Penn found at the location and is like, you're going to be in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Who are you talking about specifically?
I can't even remember what they say at this point, but there's just a guy that he meets who gives him something or sells him a ticket or something like that. It's one line of dialogue.
Okay, so it's like a
and
tiny
it's
little role.
stilted, and I was like, just hire an actor. Just hire a fucking actor, Sean.
Well, you didn't see Nomadland, which I'm really surprised about, because you're such an Oscars head.
It was too much for me. As a currently unemployed person, I can't watch movies about unemployed people.
Okay, fair enough. But it did kind of reek of Nomadland. In Nomadland, though, it's like the scenes that they give Vince Vaughn and, you know, the hippies were like real people.
Well, since we're getting there, this is the one non-actor's performance that I actually think is really good in this movie. Chris is picked up by a pair of hippies played by Catherine Keener and this guy named Brian Deeker.
Dierker.
He was a rafting guide who had been hired by the movie for the rafting section.
Oh,
Never acted before in his life.
I thought that guy was legit. He's a great actor.
Gives a really naturalistic performance playing a really interesting character.
Yeah. He's a hippie. He kind of looks like Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. And he's got that laid-back dude energy.
Very much so.
And, you know, so many of the other performances are so over the top. Catherine Keener is a great example. She's so histrionic in this movie.
Yeah, she's just like always in such pain. And it's just like, lady, chill out. It's okay. You got Brian Dreeker with you.
You got this guy, and I mean, he's in pain too, but he doesn't know better to not play it with just like a really humble simplicity.
Right.
That is so engaging.
Yeah. No, he was probably the best actor in the movie, to be honest.
So, you know, I guess you gotta trade the good with the bad. Like, I would love to see this guy play something like this again sometime.
I honestly, so Nomadland is different in that it takes a little bit more of a journalistic approach. Like I feel like Nomadland didn't really trust the actors or the non-actors to like actually have scenes. It's more like Frances McDormand's just kind of sitting there listening to them monologue.
Sure.
And it comes off as a little like NPR-ish. Like,
it's more like the guy playing at the Slabland. You know, who's a real guy.
A little bit,
yeah.
It's a little bit more like that, yeah. Where he's just kind of showing them around. But Brian Dicker, he's got the real scene going, and it's really good. So I was kind of pissed off at Nomadland a little bit because I was like, I think they should have let them actually have some scenes, and maybe we would have had a good neo-realistic sort of situation going on here. But they kind of kept arm's length for the people in Nomadland. So I respect what Sean Penn did here with this guy, because he trusted him to carry these scenes, and they're good.
And they're good scenes.
Yeah.
During his time with hippies, Chris espouses his philosophy, which, to paraphrase, is just that all he cares about is things that are true.
Yes.
Which
truth above all.
Fuck that, because truth is absolutely subjective and based off our own individual experiences. There is no universal truth. You know, any high schooler could tell you that. But two, I actually think it really exemplifies a key distinction that I wanted to make in this movie. Chris is presented as being like this John Muir-esque figure, this advocate for the wilderness, who meets people and tells them, go out into the wild, you will be happier for it, helps them find their happiness.
Yes.
But he takes this love of nature, this passion that he has, and uses it very selfishly. For him, it's like, I want to be away from people. I want to go to Alaska by myself. I want to be away from people.
Right.
When someone like Muir, who is like the greatest wild man in American history, you know, our the grandfather of conservation, the father of the national parks, turned his love of nature and being in the wild into a mission to improve the lives of everyone around him.
Right. He conserved, he mapped stuff, he did all sorts of shit.
He wrote beautifully, he advocated for these causes in Washington and in the press.
Yeah.
And maybe if Chris had lived longer, he could have become someone like that. But it doesn't seem like that's what he wanted.
In the movie, he's like, I'll go to Alaska and then I'll like write a book or something. He's clearly going to be an influencer like of his time in the 90s. He's going to write the Walk in the Woods book, but it's going to be way more annoying. I'm sorry, I don't mean to speak ill of the dead. I'm speaking specifically about the character in the movie.
But, you know, there is a way to make somebody like this who is inspirational, who is, you know, a very powerful hero that you can get behind. And I think John Muir is a great real life example of that.
Yeah.
But this movie isn't interested in that because that doesn't align with the real story, and the character suffers for it.
Yeah. No, he's really fucking annoying. I'm sorry. I mean, at least he's not like whiny. He manages to like provide for himself at least, but he just thinks he's so much better than everyone else.
Speaking of annoying, how do you feel about the apple scene?
Oh yes, I laughed out loud. That was the first of many times I laughed out loud. He's sitting on the side of the road, just looking at an apple, and just starts talking to the apple because he's just like that. He's just like that.
This apple is 100 times more delicious than any apple I've eaten.
No, he says you are 100 times more delicious.
And then the adjectives he uses to describe it are, it's so delicious and organic.
You are so
delicious and you are so organic. Like, that is a quality of the apple that he can taste.
If Christopher McCandless was around now, he would have had a phone, and he would have been filming it, and he would have posted it to the grid.
Oh, my God.
I guarantee it. Do you think he, like, wanted attention? I think he did. He wanted to write a book. I think he just wanted the street cred before to get the attention.
The movie certainly argues that, like, he was doing this to teach a lesson to his parents.
Right.
To say something to them.
Yeah. And
to everyone he meets. Like, he can't pass quietly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like he's doing that because he wants to improve their lives. He's doing that because he wants to prove them wrong.
Right. Yeah, I think he wanted the attention in the end.
I said it out loud when we were watching it, but it reminds me of, like, every kid's TV show has an episode where the main character runs away from home to teach their parents a lesson. Except in every kid's TV show, it turns out that was the wrong way to try and teach a lesson, and the kid learns that.
Yeah.
But in this movie, it's the right way. He fundamentally changes the relationship his parents have and improves it because of this extremely selfish act that he does.
Oh, God.
Is this an objectivist film?
Probably, yeah. I think it's like he did make his dad cry in the end. So, all in all, you know, he paid
He's
with
justified doing whatever he wants.
He paid for it with his life, but he got William Hurt to cry at the end. So, I mean, I don't know.
William Hurt's really good in that scene where he cries. He just falls out on the pavement.
Out. All right,
That's
let's move on to the next section. The movie is, of course, divided into chapters because it's a Tarantino movie, I guess. But it's only
stages of life.
It's only 4 chapters,
yeah.
So it's not even. I feel like
it's 5, right?
Was it 5? I don't know.
It's like childhood, adolescence, adulthood, family, gaining wisdom.
Okay, well, 5 chapters, fine. So the next chapter starts up, and he needs a little scratch because he gave all his money to charity. So
who does he work for?
Vincent Vaughn. In a show-stopping performance, playing a farmer, but he's cool.
Playing a farmer, but who was also like pirating satellite TV.
He's just a really cool guy, you know. He has got Zach Galifianakis working for him as another farmer.
A weird survivalist dude.
Pre him being like super famous, he's gonna blow up 2 years later as
doing one of the weirdest accents ever.
I thought it was a Vermont accent.
It's definitely not a Vermont accent.
All right, fair enough. Zach is there, but Vaughn is basically doing his like swingers thing, like you're a tiger, you're gonna roar at the world, and you know, it's kind of annoying. I think swingers is the perfect amount of that in the world, and Vince Vaughn never needed to do it again.
Again, the problem is the movie doesn't call him on it at all.
No,
you know, like in Swingers, he's kind of an asshole.
Yeah,
and that's sort of the point.
The movie makes a point of it at the end.
And in here, he is the person that Chris writes to in Alaska.
Yeah, he's the guy.
He is the guy who's got it figured out, I guess.
Yeah, he's living the dream.
This criminal who hits on waitresses at bars.
Yeah, but he really takes a shine. Everyone that Chris meets that we follow really just takes a shine to him. They just think he's amazing. He's like Jesus. Yeah. He just comes into their life and spouts off quotes from old Russian novels, and they just feel like he's such a good kid.
It really makes you wonder what the movie would have been like if he wasn't white.
You mentioned that while we were watching, and I didn't really think about that till the end. And I agree. Yeah, he just is able to float into people's lives with an exceptional amount of privilege.
Yes.
And you're right. If a different color person floated into people's lives, I think they wouldn't react as so kindly as they do in this movie.
There's a moment that actually I found almost like offensive in the way it was told visually, where he arrives in Los Angeles after a few more misadventures,
yes,
and he goes to a homeless shelter.
He's like on Skid Row,
and he is the only white person there.
Yeah,
and he is different than the people around him. They are poor. He's an adventurer.
Aura. He's an adventurer. Yeah, and also the editing gets all weird. Like it's like because of the fact that he's in the city, it's now all like kinetic and like jumpy, and there's like it kind of like makes it like a horror movie for a second.
And then he gets to escape.
Yeah, he just gets on a train or something.
There are many people that we've seen who have desperate need, who aren't afforded those opportunities.
Yeah.
And there's no mention of that. There's no thought of that.
Yeah. Well, this is the part I wrote down. What does the movie think of all this? Does the movie think that Christopher McCandless is cool? I think so.
Yes.
It thinks that what he did is fucking awesome. And it pays a little bit of lip service in the end to like, yeah, it was probably a bad idea. But 90% of it is like, look at how awesome this is.
Wouldn't it be cool to go live in a bus in Alaska?
He's kayaking, and like there's people on the side that are like, helmet, put on a helmet. And he's like going through rapids, and he's like, it's shooting it as though it's like a Red Bull outdoor commercial.
Yeah, and it's great photography. You can see that it is actually Emile Hirsch paddling through these rapids.
Yeah, no, it looks really
cool. But
cool.
Also, you're right, absolutely. It's like, it's a rebuke against the person who tells him to wear a helmet.
A little bit. I think it's a little bit of both. It's like, it's kind of having its cake and eating its too. It's like, look, he's playing it a little too crazy. I don't know about this guy. But also, this is really cool. Look at this. This is amazing. And it does, in the very end, when he finally dies, it makes it like this beautiful moment.
There's also this really weird thing, which is wherever he goes, women are being either very emotionally intimate with him or physically intimate with him. There's naked women all over this movie.
Well, there's the Swedish or the
woman
Danish couple that he meets who are just partying, and she's just nude.
She's just nude.
Because why not? And then he goes to a nudist colony. I think that was it. So
but there's
Captain Keener. Captain Keener like walks on the beach with him
and gets they go
almost
skinny
naked.
dipping in the ocean basically.
And then Kristen Stewart also takes. You're right. Yeah.
But those are the ones I'm talking about being like emotionally intimate with him. Because Keener has like a very weird relationship with him.
She does. Well, it's implied that he's the son she never was able to have.
But it's not very, mother son.
No. It's way hotter than that.
There is like a sexual tension. At first, when like Rainey is telling him to go down the beach, I thought they were like swinging. That's what it looks like. That's how it's filmed.
Interesting. So yeah, I think the movie thinks it's really epic what he did, and it's just unfortunate that he made it out or that he didn't make it out.
Right. It was honestly like a bad stroke of luck.
Yeah, he
was a little underprepared, but
so you learned in the book the movie. Here's where I think the movie thinks he's really cool. In the book, you find out that if he had gotten the right maps, because he didn't get like a good enough map with like every little detail of the area, like 7 miles away, there was a bridge that could have gotten him out, and he could have gotten to it, but he just wasn't able. He couldn't like scout out
because
in
he
every
wasn't
direction.
interested in following somebody else's map.
Right. He just wanted to be in the wild, which is funny because I think it's around this point in the movie when it cuts back to Alaska where he's getting organized, he's making camp, and like he starts making trails and cutting trees down and shit. Like he's civilizing the land just as much as anyone else would in that situation.
There is a point in the movie where he literally decries dams when he's gone down into Mexico and he's like, it's just trickles and irrigation ditches because of the dams we made. And then in Alaska, we see him make a dam so that he can survive with no acknowledgement of the hypocrisy or the learning that represents.
Yeah, I feel like a better version of this movie could have, like, if this movie had been made by, like, a maverick director in the 70s where, like, they're just like, fuck this guy, it would have been pretty good. Like, it would have been like, this guy is a hypocrite a little bit, and what he did to himself is really terrible, and yes, there is some wisdom in what he's spouting out, but ultimately, it's like I feel like this movie could have been so much more...
what this movie needs to be.
It should have been so much more bleak about this character, but it's really not.
It should have had at least some perspective on him.
Yeah. It really is, like, the GQ profile of, like, man, it's so cool what he did, and...
I feel like that reaches its zenith with Hal Holbrook.
Yes. Hal Holbrook is kind of the last person that he... Well, we didn't talk about Kristen Stewart, but we can skip ahead.
I mean, like, there's not that much to say.
There's no they could have cut out that entire section of the movie. I have no idea. He goes to a camp, Kristen Stewart is there, they flirt, but then ultimately she offers herself to him on a silver platter, but he says no because she's underage and he's a paragon of virtue. And great, adds almost nothing to the movie.
Yeah.
Other than there's another star.
And we get to see Kay Stu before Twilight,
Kay Stu, yeah. She's, not as big of a deal as she's gonna be in the near future, but I think they probably added her just to have a little more sex of some kind in the movie.
Yeah.
Even though she literally is 16 when they filmed the movie, and she is being used as a sex object, whatever. They sing a song together at a show, really annoying, rolled my eyes so hard.
Can we talk about the music for a minute? We haven't really talked about that.
Oh, yeah, the Eddie Vedder of it all.
Yeah, there's a lot of songs in this movie.
A lot of lyric songs.
A lot of lyric songs with lyrics that are very literal.
Yes.
Which is just the worst.
We hear Society.
That one was the worst.
Society. I mean, I'm sure
we couldn't believe that song.
It's probably a great CD to put on in your, like, crunchy coffee shop.
Yeah.
Like, with really expensive coffee. Kind of like the coffee place we went to today. If I owned that place, I would definitely put the Into the Wild soundtrack on, and just as a nice mellow background. If you're into that kind of music, fair enough. But in this movie, it's just like, you hear so many songs in full. It's too much.
And they are all of them very literal.
Yeah.
And that is just so uninteresting.
Yeah, it's very post-Pearl Jam kind of music as well, which I've never been a fan of Pearl Jam.
It has definitely some U2 feels to him, too, which obviously Sean Penn and Bono, good buddies.
Yep. I'm sure they have a great time when they go out into the woods. Remember we talked about that with another movie? What was that? When we talked about somebody going out in the woods, I theorized that they go out in the woods together. Remember this?
Oh, yeah, but I don't remember what movie it was.
I can't remember either. We'll have to go back into the records.
All right, well, let's talk about Hal Holbrook for a second.
Yes.
The movie seems to be accelerating to its climax because we've established already that he can't escape, that the river has flooded.
Yes.
We've established already that he's running out of food.
Right.
The moose that he shot is spoiling.
Yes, he didn't take his lessons to heart. I was going to say he should have used some of his $24,000 that he threw away to charity to like go take a wilderness survival course. You can definitely go do that for a month and they'll teach you everything.
Probably would have helped.
Yeah.
We also know at this point that he's going to Alaska. Like, literally, he said it to every person that he's met in the movie.
He gets a job at Burger King to make a little extra money.
And even the Burger King manager
knows. But it made me really crazy. I told you yesterday I really want some Burger King.
Sure.
This podcast sponsored by Burger King. That flame broiled.
So, with all of this happening, with the movie looking like it's almost over, we introduce yet another major character for Chris to change.
Yes.
Not man. To change Chris, but for Chris to change. Mm-hmm. Old man, played by venerated character actor Hal Holbrook. He lost his family when he was overseas serving in the army. He makes leather, takes a shine to this young whippersnapper.
Yeah, what's the line? He meets him after 5 minutes and he's like, you seem like a bright guy.
You seem like a bright boy.
It's like a dude he met on the side of the road.
A shirtless dude living under a tarp in the desert. Seems like a bright young boy.
It's very nice of him to say that. You know, he's not going to say, like, you look like a hobo.
But over the span of 30 interminable minutes.
Yeah, it's a really long time.
Emile Hirsch gets this 80-year-old man to climb a mountain.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. They're going to climb the mountain so they can see the view of the Salton Sea.
And Holbrook offers to adopt him.
Yes. He says, right as he's leaving, he says, why don't I adopt you? Why don't I make you my grandson? Which I don't think you can do legally if you're 23 years old. Maybe you can.
Yeah, you might be able to. You certainly could, like, name them your beneficiary or your heir.
Okay, fair enough.
But just, this is the moment that really, like, I already really dislike the Chris character. But Hal Holbrook is good in this movie. He's delivering a strong emotional performance, and with tears in his eyes, asking this kid not to go throw his life away. The callous disregard that Chris has for his feelings is unforgivable.
Yeah. But again, in a better movie that's a little more bleak, a little more nihilistic, or a little more like, look at how dumb people can be, that'd be really powerful. Yeah. But in this movie, it's like, look at how he went into the wild, man. And
it also seems like the moral of the story is look how much he changed Hal Holbrook's life.
Right.
Not look how he ignored these good lessons. Look at how this opportunity meant nothing to him. But like, even though he couldn't give this man everything he wanted, he still changed his life for the better.
Yeah. And then, you know, I'm sure he's going to see in the newspaper a couple years later, like, he died, you enabled his fucking death. Because you helped him get the supplies he needed to go off into the wilderness. So I'm sure the character will feel great about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Let's finish off the movie with the finale. The grand finale. Things go really shitty in the wilderness. As we mentioned before,
the river is flooded.
River flooded. He didn't account for the water coming in after the spring thaw or whatever. And he's starving. He's run out of food.
He does whine there. He shouts to the heavens.
He does whine.
Why are there no animals?
Where are the fucking animals? And he shoots his gun off a couple times, wastes ammo. And he ultimately decides he's going to eat some berries to survive. He forages, he eats the berries, and then a few minutes later he realizes he ate the wrong berries. And now he is fucked. Yeah. He's going to starve, he's going to have nausea, he's going to have delusions. And if it's untreated, as the book says, he will die. What did you feel about this sequence? Is it scary to you? Is it?
I wrote 5 words here in the notes. No sympathy, not a tragedy.
No sympathy, not a tragedy. You don't feel bad for him at all? No.
There's this moment where he's flipping through the pages that show the 2 different plants, and clearly it's a sign of, it's visual storytelling so that Penn can show what's happening without having to explain it. Which I'm sure was actually really difficult to figure out how to do. Because this is a complex idea that the audience needs to understand with no real way to explain it.
And they didn't fall back on the narration being like, he ate the wrong berries. Like, they actually do it, which I respect.
But the consequence of that is that the information that he needed to save his life was literally 1 page away in the book. And we've seen throughout the movie that this guy loves to read.
Yeah,
loves to read Russian literature and poetry, really likes to feel smart that he can reference that material, and we are told that he can reference it. That like he has a really great memory for the stuff that he reads.
Right.
That he's a really smart guy. And so the impression you're left with is this fucking idiot couldn't read the book about survival, but he could read Tolstoy?
Well, it was probably really hard. You know, it's a very, they show really close, it's like there's protruding veins that he like didn't see. And he's already desperate, so I'm not going to give him any grief for screwing that up. We could all make mistakes. What I'll give him grief for is like not taking a wilderness survival. Like when you get to Alaska, you could be like, hey, I have $1,000. I've been planning this whole Alaska thing for some time now.
Yeah.
Please go show me how to, but that would go against everything he stands for, so you can't do it.
Maybe bringing more than a 10-pound bag of rice.
But the whole point is that he's in the wild. That's the thing.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? The Alaskan wilderness, not known as an easy place to survive.
No, it's very hard.
Not a lot of animals live there. Most of them are always scrabbling and fighting and desperate for food.
Oh, man. Is someone here? Is someone coming? Sean Penn has
Oh my god, Sean Penn
arrived to kill
He's going to
us.
kick our ass. Dude, he would too. Did you know that he once sued Lee Daniels because Lee Daniels compared Terrence Howard's domestic abuse problems to his?
Wow.
And it was like immediately like $10 million lawsuit.
Junie, come here. That's amazing. Let me put Junie on the live blog for anyone that wants to see her.
Yeah, don't fuck with Sean Penn.
Ho!
He will fuck back.
There she is. Say hello to everyone. Hi. She loved the movie, by the way. She was in
She watched the whole movie.
Yes. Hey, stop it. So he dies.
He dies.
He crawls into a sleeping bag.
He has a vision of what his life could have been if he had gone back home.
If he had returned home. I think his father would have punched him in the face.
He probably should have.
The minute he got home, but instead it shows William Hurt being like, oh, my son, my beautiful son. Yeah, and he dies, and that's the end of the movie. Another Eddie Vedder song comes on.
The camera pulls out
on
the beautiful
on the
Alaskan
bus,
wilderness.
And that's it. Do we have a comment here? Let me see. Junie, yeah, okay. Sorry. Sorry for the podcast listeners.
Let's talk Legacy.
Thank you, Davide. Legacy. Yeah, there's no 2007. There's no 2007 tech. The movie takes place in the 90s. So no, unfortunately, we don't get to do that this week.
What about 1990 tech from our 1990 season?
You know, we went to a car show today.
It's true.
Earlier, and we were talking about like, did people actually like? It's just weird to live in that world of those bigger boxy cars. And but again, the production design is really good in this movie. They show off all the cool cars, and I think
William
it's a
Hurt's
really
got
good
a Cadillac.
piece. Yeah, he's got a big old Cadillac,
which of course Emile Hirsch hates.
Yeah.
He's like, don't buy me a fucking Cadillac.
Yep.
Why would I want a new car?
1990 tech is the boombox that people listen to. They listen to Can't Touch This on a boombox. And like, yeah, great setting. Great.
Dude, and I guess they had it on repeat somehow?
It played a really long time.
So, Legacy. This film had a budget of $20 million. A nice, healthy budget for a small film like this with one actor most of the time.
Yeah.
I think that's probably because they afforded several major stars.
Yeah, the star power is pretty big in this one.
And they did a lot of location filming, which is never cheap.
Yeah,
so.
they're actually out at every location. I think the bus was not the real location. They rebuilt the bus because it was just too deep in the woods.
But you know what that $20 million didn't go towards? Trailers, hot meals.
Right. Yeah, they were roughing it. It must be pretty easy though to like. Well, it's probably really hard physically, but to know that eventually you can go back to Malibu, like. It's okay, it will end, you'll be fine. You don't have to be like this forever.
The film went on to gross a total of $56.8 million worldwide. I don't have the other numbers just because we kind of rushed the prep on this.
We were doing it while we watched the movie.
But that's a sizable return, you know? Like, that's perfectly acceptable for an indie film. And more importantly, it did generate a fair amount of awards buzz. It was nominated for 2 Oscars, for editing, and for supporting actor for Hal Holbrook. What do we think about those noms?
Both, I think, pretty undeserved. Holbrook's fine, but like he doesn't do much in the movie. Like he's a good guy and everything, but like there's nothing about that performance that I think is Oscar worthy.
I don't think either of these would get onto my BttM-mies.
No,
my BttM-mies
definitely
at the end of the year.
And editing, this movie is 220. Like beyond just like the artistic part of editing, it's also about choosing what needs to be in the movie.
Do you remember there's like this shot? I can't even remember what's happening in the shot. It's just like Hirsch like against the background. And you looked down at your phone And then you look back up.
When he's in the water.
Yeah, he's slow motion shot of him in the shower. It starts, Nat's like, oh, I get what the shot is. Looks down at his phone. Few seconds later, looks back up. Shot is still going. Looks down at his phone. Looks back up. The shot is still going.
It just went forever. No, there's so many shots of him just outstretched arms. And I get it. It's like nature photography. But it just further sells the bullshit of the movie, which is that he's a super awesome paragon of virtue and that we should celebrate his way of life. And, like, I think we should celebrate his way of life 25%. Like, yeah, go to nature.
We should find the wisdom in his life and sacrifice, but not assume that his life and sacrifice is wisdom.
Yeah. Parts of it are smart. And, like, yes, you should appreciate nature. And it is good for your soul. But a little, like everything, too much will kill you.
I think it got the editing nom just for his death.
Yeah, his death is pretty cool.
A lot of the performances, the editing is kind of histrionic. Like, it's kind of over the top, particularly at the end.
Yeah. And there's a couple, like, split screen random moments. Like, they do a couple fancy tricks that if you're watching it on an Academy screener, you're like, best editing, why not?
But it wasn't just Oscars. It got nominated for many other awards and won several as well.
Some of the songs
Golden
got some
Globes,
awards.
yeah, the score got a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So, it certainly was worth covering. It was an important hallmark of 2007.
And I think this movie does have a bit of a legacy of people just thinking it's pretty cool. Like, Into the Wild.
And I'm reminded of early on in the season, we asked the question, what did we think about movies in 2007? And both of us answered, I don't remember them being particularly good.
Yeah.
And when this is like the movie that's being held up as the great cinema of 2007, I think that's why.
Yeah.
That's how I remember it.
That is true. Well, themes, we didn't really have time to like figure out any 2007 themes.
I wrote a couple down.
Okay.
Voiceover. That has been a common trope in most of the movies we've watched.
All the movies that we've covered, there's a lot of voiceover.
And here's yet another one. And it's been over such a wide gamut of genres and styles and tones, they still find that device so narratively useful that they can't get away from it.
Yeah, it's so bad in this movie. What else you got?
I was wondering if we thought his time in Alaska could count as Quagmire. He's stuck in one place, but he's there by choice.
I mean, I guess so. It's just that the resolution is death. Like, it's kind of sad.
So let me put it in another way. Is the emotional state that he leaves everyone else in akin to Quagmire?
No, because the movie doesn't care. Think about what he
does to his parents.
The movie doesn't care about it, other than with the parents, but everyone else looks extremely happy when it cuts to them.
Him, yeah.
They're like, yeah, thank God he touched me. And even his personal Quagmire is more like a survival situation. It's like, if I don't get the fuck out of here, I'm gonna die. I feel like most of the Quagmires we've seen that we've kind of thematically discussed have been more about just like, I am stuck in
a
this
bad situation
forever. So it's similar, but I think it's more of a life or death kind of, it's like a ticking clock.
In the same vein, I was wondering if the disillusionment with the family could be seen as some form of institutional corruption.
Not really.
Because the family is like the ultimate institution, and here's one that has been corrupted.
I think more than that is his hatred for like parts of the government that like say he needs a permit to river raft.
Dude, we didn't talk about that park ranger.
Yeah, the park ranger's a huge asshole.
I've been to many national parks. I have spoken to many park rangers. They have been, to a man, extremely helpful, informative, enthusiastic. That's a great job that people really like doing.
Yeah.
And this guy's like on the phone talking about like hooking up with some woman.
He's like he really hates his job, and he couldn't care less about Emile Hirsch walking into his office and asking about the river. So maybe there, but I don't know. I think the family thing is a little bit different. I will say that because this movie takes place in 1990, there's a surprising amount of the 90s themes that we talked about in our previous season, like him not wanting to become a douchebag stockbroker. There's one scene where he sees himself as a douchebag stockbroker in a bar, and it cuts from the stockbroker guy to Emile in the same position.
And I want to reiterate, this is the sequence in which he's in LA, being surrounded by people who are needy. Actual impoverished homeless people, and he walks by a bar and he sees a dude in a suit and he's like, fuck the city.
Yeah. So I thought that was kind of, it reminded me of our 1990 season a lot.
Sure. Because
we saw so many douchebag yuppies in that season. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's Into the Wild. I'm glad we were finally able to do this in person.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Much fun. I hope everyone watching had a good time watching, and I think I think Instagram Reels keeps it up for a while, so
Cool.
maybe people will tune in later to check it out on their phones. Just wanted to reiterate, this is such a great gift that Ben got me. 2 custom-made DVDs of 2 of the movies we watched, and it's the Naturian collection.
Which, should we explain the context of that? When we did our year roundup for our first season, I asked Nat to induct a film or 2 into his personal Naturian collection.
Yes, because I have all my Criterions up here, and these are going to sit proudly. It looks exactly the same. I don't have enough space. But they're going to sit proudly on the shelf with the rest of the Criterion. So, once again, Ben, amazing gift.
And there'll be more to come.
Thank you so much. Next week, we're going to do Superbad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. There's a guest we have lined up for that. I actually haven't even mentioned it to her, but we have some time, so hopefully she can do it.
I spent my entire college life fleeing from the comment that I looked like Jonah Hill.
Well, you grew out the beard.
Superbad.
Yeah.
Grew out the beard.
Yeah, so I don't really think you look like him at all anymore.
No.
So you successfully made it away from him.
But back then, I literally had someone take a picture with me to try and trick their friends into thinking they had met Jonah Hill.
I mean, you did kind of look like Jonah Hill, so I can't fault them for that. Once again, at BttM Pod on Instagram, on Twitter, and on TikTok. I gotta get back on that. I haven't done my reels, which blew up at some point.
Yeah.
They're hard to do. It's an undertaking. So I'll get back on it at some point. And
Thanks.
also email us at bttm@gmail.com. Thank you to
Andy Gagnon for our music and Jackie Saltzman for our artwork.
Except technically for this live cast, we don't have to thank them because we didn't use the music or the artwork.
But I will in the podcast posting of this recording.
I just want to caveat that for the live cast, they do not get a thank you. Just kidding. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks again for watching for Back to the Movies. This has been Nat.
And I'm Ben, and we'll see you next week when we go back to the movies.